Hey people, John here from Fast Films, and today we're
Go through a 1993 action movie called Showdown. The movie begins with two policemen in their vehicles having dinner. As they discuss, they're hailed to help apprehend some nobodies who have decided to do what they want at a party. They drive there and arrive on the scene to find some drunk teenager driver knocking over a bicycle. Officer Billy Grant questions one of the teens and chastises him for being disrespectful to him. Then, Billy catches wind of the situation inside. He rushes in and apprehends the perpetrators. Unfortunately, he terminates one of them by accident. This breaks Officer Billy as he keeps thinking about the events of the night. One day, in the shower, his partner, Officer Spinelli, advises him to move on from the incident. Billy says he just couldn't move on and quits his job. After the movie credits, there's a time jump to 7 years later when, one morning, Ken Marks arrives at his new school for the first time. His mother drops him off and watches her son walk in to begin his new life in the strange town. Ken leaves his mother and meets up with the vice principal, Kowalski, who explains the rules and regulations of the school to him. Ken gets enough of the vice principal and walks back into the hallway. There, someone plays a firecracker prank on him, which he falls terribly to. As the students laugh at him, his eyes catch the beauty of the school, Julie, who walks away after seeing him. The pranksters, Tom and his crew, try to skip class, bullying a classmate on the way. In class, Tom, who's a bully, has a little fight with his girlfriend, Julie. Before things could go any further, the teacher enters the class and starts things. As she tries to get the students in order, Ken enters the class and, as usual, everyone makes fun of the new kid. After being shown his seat, Ken settles down and steals a glance at Julie, who stares back at him. Just then, Mike, the class nerd and fun guy, warns Ken about looking at Julie. He tells his new friend that Julie is Tom's girlfriend and it's best to stay off them. Ken concurs, and after class, the two boys find Ken a new locker. After getting a suitable locker for Ken, Mike shows him around and introduces him to the famous people in the school library. As Mike talks with him, Ken sights Julie and walks over to talk with her. Moments later, Tom arrives with his crew and sees Tom with Julie. He quickly tells the female of the group to distract the librarian while he gets to his girlfriend's table. Upon getting there, Tom chastises Ken for talking with his girlfriend. Thankfully, Julie steps in and calms her boyfriend down, and he leaves Ken alone. After school, Mike and Ken discuss how crazy Ken was. Then, Mike leaves his friend, who later gets attacked by Tom and his hooligans. They warn him to stay away from Julie so he doesn't face Tom's wrath. This doesn't sit well with Ken, though, as he just walks away. With Ken still on the ground, Billy passes by and picks him up. Moments later, Ken's in Billy's janitor's space. There, Billy finds out Ken's dad died some years back and encourages him to keep a good and courageous kid. After putting up Ken's spirits, Billy ushers him out of his space. In the next scene, Lee, the master of the dojo Tom trains in, encourages his students to take control over success and bring home wins. After his speech, he then chooses one of his students to spar with. Unfortunately for the students, he gets beaten up by Lee. Kate, Lee's sidekick, chastises Tom for beating up a kid at his school. After challenging him, she pushes him to get home. Up next, Ken's mother gets down to have breakfast and sees her son. Ken, who understands the situation his mom's in, ushers him to go get some rest. Then, he goes and talks to Julie before class. Julie apologizes for her boyfriend's behavior the other day and becomes friends with Ken again. Only this time, Ken doesn't give her the smiley face. Meanwhile, Tom and his crew pass by and they catch Ken talking with Julie again. This irritates him, but he is urged not to fight in school by his friend. Later during the day, Mike and Ken get to the library again. Ken sees Julie, walks over to her, and says hi. Just then, Tom enters the library and sees Ken with Julie. Ken runs away as Tom and his friend pursues him hotly. Eventually, Ken stops in the auditorium and Tom follows suit with his bully friend. Before they lay a hand on Ken, Billy, the janitor of the school, walks in and defends Ken from the boys. Ken stops him midway as he wrestles Tom and his friend to the ground. Billy then runs off as other students walk in. After school that day, Mike hails his friend for beating up Tom. Ken, however, says he didn't do it and asks his friend to follow him to the janitor's quarters. Upon getting there, Ken thanks Billy for coming in clutch for him and tells him the repercussions of his actions. Billy assures him things will be fine and walks away. Back in Tom's dojo, Kate chastises him for getting a black and blue face. Tom lies, saying he fell off his bike and is ushered by Kate to meet the master, Lee. Upon getting there, Lee punches Tom in the face for allowing himself to be beaten by a mere student, Ken. After beating up his best student, Lee warns him to never lose again or else Tom could lose his life. After Tom leaves him, Kate advises her boss to let her check out Billy. Back in school, Mike and Ken argue about everyone condemning him for beating up Tom. Ken gets tired and complains about the attention he's getting as Julie steps in to apologize for her boyfriend again. Ken then tells her he has no problem with her, but her boyfriend, and tells her he can't flow with her again. Up next, Mike meets up with Ken and asks him about his day. Ken says he's been hiding from Tom in the library. While he discusses, the devil himself arrives and bullies Mike. Then he calls out Ken for telling everyone he beat him up the other day. Ken tries to tell Tom he didn't do that, but it was too late. Tom humiliates Ken in front of everyone and walks away. Mike helps his friend up as the crowd disperses. Ken then makes his way to Billy, who tells him he'd teach him how to stand up for himself. Ken reluctantly agrees, and in a couple of scenes, Ken is seen cleaning toilets, mopping floors, taking out the trash, and finally going back home. In the next scene, Julie chastises her boyfriend for laying his hands on Ken. Tom ignores her and says he's just being protective of his woman. Julie then tells him that if he doesn't stop, he'd have to choose between her and his master's way of life. Up next, Kate arrives at the school, sees the VP, and has a nice chat with him. Just then, she gets into the school and takes photos of Ken and Billy in training. Upon showing it to Lee flinches and orders her to find and take out Billy at all costs. Meanwhile, Billy and Ken train on improving Ken's reflexes. One day after training, Ken tells Billy about Julie and Tom. He also informs Billy of his crush on Julie, and Billy encourages him to man up and talk with Julie once again. The next day, Ken and Julie are back in talking terms. Ken asks Julie out, but Julie rejects him, saying she just can't leave Tom to see Ken. Ken begs to differ, but Julie walks away after giving a half-assed explanation. By evening time, Ken and Billy train yet again. After training, Ken sees Billy's badge in the locker and leaves afterward. Outside, he meets Tom, who challenges him to another fight. This time, Ken defends himself and kicks Tom in the nuts, leaving him crippled for a while. Before Tom gets up again, Kate drives in and picks up Ken for a ride home. On the way, Kate offers Ken a job offer to fight in the dojo. Ken rejects her offer, but Kate takes him to the fight club to see for himself with the hopes of him changing his mind. Upon getting to the underground fight club, Kate gets good seats for Ken to spectate the fight. She tries to bribe him into accepting her offer, but Ken rejects the money. After the first fight, a fighter named David Sternley fights Lee. As usual, the unfair matchup ends with Lee winning. Up next, Billy chastises Ken for thinking of accepting Kate's offer. During their argument, Ken finds out Billy was a cop until he took a kid's life and quit. Ken apologizes for insulting Billy and continues training. Meanwhile, Tom receives a scolding from Kate as she tells him to keep his hands off Ken. Tom reluctantly agrees to this, and in the next scene, Ken perfects his training with Billy, with Julie staring in admiration one day. Soon enough, Ken becomes a well-trained fighter and receives positive nods from his trainer. One night, Billy calls his old buddy, Officer Spinelli, about an abandoned warehouse being used as an illicit drug depot. Spinelli follows him and urges him that he's wasting both their time as they arrive at the warehouse. Moments later, Billy proves his point as he and his partner fight off some substance dealers. Later that night, Kate and Lee find out Billy attacked his warehouse. He orders Tom to take out Billy, and he says yes. The next day, Ken asks Julie out again. Julie rejects him again and leaves Ken angry at her behavior. At that moment, Officer Spinelli arrives at the warehouse with his men to bust the dealers. Meanwhile, Ken complains to Billy about Julie's behavior. Billy encourages him to keep pushing. Up next, Julie gets into a fight with Tom as she accuses him of neglecting her. Tom tries to bully her, but Julie finally breaks up with him, leaves the cinema, and calls Ken to come pick her up. Ken, who's been chilling at home, gets up to meet his crush. Back in the school's auditorium, Billy gets attacked by Tom and his partner as they attempt to take his life. However, things don't go as planned as Billy saves himself from certain death. In another scene, Ken and Julie talk about the reasons behind Ken's training with Billy every day. Ken says he's been practicing all day so he could steal her away from Tom. Julie answers him saying, "You already have." Meanwhile, Ken continues his fight with Tom and his partner as he knocks out both of them. The next day, Kate tries to cajole Ken into accepting her offer. Ken threatens to call the cops if this continues, and Kate boasts about the power in her hands. As they discuss, she hints to Ken about Billy's fight. Ken runs around the school to find his trainer, all to avail. As he settles down with Mike, he catches Tom teasing his girlfriend. He rushes in to fight off Tom and ends up setting a fight between him and Tom so as to settle things. Then, some scenes pass by showing the duo preparing for their big night. Eventually, the big night comes as everyone rushes into Lee's dojo to spectate the fight. In the absence of Billy, Mike acts as Ken's coach and encourages him to kick Tom's nuts again. Then, the duo move out as it's time for the fight to begin. Julie begs her crush to let things go. However, Ken assures her he's not losing to a loser that night and steps into the ring. As Ken walks to the ring, however, Mike tells Julie about him already, informing the cops about the underground fighting ring and that they were already on their way. Just then, the fight for Julie starts with Tom gaining the upper hand in the fight with a few punches and kicks. However, when Billy finally arrives to cheer his student on, Ken suddenly feels the urge to fight and beats the heck out of Tom. This disappoints Lee so much that he steps into the ring to beat up Ken and Tom. Billy wasn't ready to let Lee beat up his student. He steps into the ring and fights with Lee. Soon, the fight evolves into a battle between Lee and Billy. Billy gets beaten up to a pulp in the first half of the match. However, when the tables turn, Lee gets a taste of his own medicine as he rushes Lee with a series of punches and kicks. After he knocks out Lee, the cops arrive and bust the place. Tom thanks Billy for beating up his wicked boss and becomes friends with Ken. Some students appoint Billy as their dojo leader and he accepts it. The movie ends as Ken claims his prize right at the spot, a kiss from Julie before he's ushered out of the building to have fun. Thanks for watching, guys.